What's going on, legends? I'm back here for another episode and we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to start up a little mini series here called Python Profiles. So it's just obviously about pythons. I'm going to be talking about the pythons that I have in my collection and potentially some that I've had, at previous times. But it's a lot easier for me to talk about animals that I actually have in the collection now. So this week we're going to kick it off with a bit of a bang. We're going to talk about my little green tree python here, Midori.
G'day, I'm Luke and I'm an avid reptile and amphibian keeper. On my channel you'll see heaps of DIY tutorials, enclosure builds, herping clips and loads more to do with animals. I hope you subscribe for some more animal related content.
So as I said, guys, I'm just going to be chatting away about how I keep this animal, her enclosure, her feeding regime, just kind of a little bit of basics. So it's a little bit of a rough care guide as to what I do and I have some success with. So as you can see, she's in quite a large enclosure. This enclosure measures 120 centimeters long, 60 centimeters tall and 60 centimeters deep front to back. It's made out of form ply, so it's a nice sort of durable product. It's a little bit more durable than melamine or normal plywood that's sealed. And it has a nice sleek sort of black appearance to it as well, and it's really cost effective. I'll chuck a link in the description to another video that I've done. I actually did a video on building this enclosure, so I'll chuck that in the description there so you can go and have a bit of a look at it and see how I made it. So these animals are clearly one of the most beautiful python species in the world. I might be a little bit biased here, but they seem to be pretty popular around the world. They are found through southern New Guinea, top end of Australia being like around Iron Range and thereabouts, and they're also found a little bit through Indonesia as well for the northern species Morelia ozireus. Midori here, however, is Morelia viridis. She's one of the southern forms. She's an Aussie green tree python, and she's a gorgeous little specimen at that. Probably one of my favourite animals here, especially when it comes to snakes. She's got a little bit of a nasty disposition inside of her enclosure, but once she's out, she's usually pretty calm. So I will try to get her out here in a little bit. She's in what I'd refer to as a naturalistic enclosure. So it's not bioactive by any means. I'd say that it's probably kind of like a halfway point in between bioactive and sterile. So this enclosure is definitely not sterile. I've got live plants, lots of old driftwood, some vertical logs and things like that in here. The substrate only gets cleaned out probably once every 3 to 6 months, depending on how bad she soils it. Substrate itself is made up of eucalyptus mulch and leaf litter, so it's pretty basic. I don't add any live bugs or anything like that in here as a cleanup crew per se, so it's a little bit of a more simple aesthetic as far as that goes. The plants that are inside of this enclosure are quite cleverly hidden as well. I've used some half logs from cork bark, cut them into little kind of like pot disguises, if you want to call it that, so you can actually see that the plants are in pots. So I can kind of remove them or take them out if I need to, or when I clean the enclosure out. But it just gives me an option to kind of still keep it a bit more of a natural look, especially when you're looking at a dead front on. But it also means that it just has somewhere that the plants can still be kind of contained with a little bit of soil. So as far as getting out of the enclosure, it's something that I probably only do once in every few months. It's not something that I do on the regular. Usually I do it just to kind of give her a bit of a health check to see how she's going. But it can be a little bit difficult to get green tree pythons out of enclosures because they tend to really grip onto their branches, especially with their tail. We'll see how we go here today. Actually wasn't too bad. So I put my little hook away. Makes getting them out a little bit easier. Got a cobweb on you, sweetie. Naturally, she's just going to want to go straight back into the enclosure because that's her little safe point. She's quite cool at the moment too. She always loves sitting down the cool end of this enclosure. So as far as temperatures go for her enclosure, she's got a little heat panel up here that's on a dimming thermostat. You might be able to still see the probe just sitting up here on the log. That's set to about 29-30 degrees Celsius, so it doesn't get too hot. And down here gets to probably about your sort of mid-20s. She's such a gorgeous snake. She does have some sort of keeled scales from where she spends so much time in that one sort of position, and she's such a stagnant python that she does kind of get like a few little bent scales here and there. It's a little bit unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world for her. But I like to be able to get her out every now and then, give her a little bit of movement, a little bit of stimulation. And sometimes that might just be in the form of putting some new branches in there. So doing something as simple as just putting in some, you know, palm fronds, whether they be dead or alive. Just gives us something else to smell around on, climb around on the night. She's such a gorgeous little animal. She's usually pretty well behaved once I've got her out here too. I honestly think, as far as pythons go, these guys have got to be one of the most beautiful snakes out there. I know there's a lot of guys over in the US that are right into their designer green tree pythons as well. You know, we don't have too much of that here in Australia, and to be honest, I'm not really too fussed on it. I think as their kind of natural form as a green tree python, they're stunning as is. You can see how strong they are to be able to hold their body up. She's got me curled right around with her tail. Look at those eyes. They're just phenomenal. So as I said, as far as keeping them, I've kind of described how I keep the enclosure. Got all these nice live pothos plants in here and a few of these other little plants. She doesn't tend to destroy it too much either. They tend to just grow at their own will, which is awesome. And I've touched on how I'm heating her up and everything. These guys, I do tend to feed them a little bit lighter than what I would most other pythons. So she probably gets fed small meals, but somewhat regularly. So I don't feed her anything that's too massive. She probably tops out at about an adult mouse to a small rat, somewhere in that sort of vicinity. Or even like a baby chicken or something like that. And she probably gets fed every couple of weeks, maybe every 2 to 3 weeks, something like that. It's not very regularly. My main reasoning for that is the fact that she doesn't move a lot. So my other green tree python, Wasabi, he moves around his enclosure heaps, which is awesome. So, you know, he tends to defecate quite easily, whereas this little girl here, she's a bit of a pain in the bum like that. So I tend to only give her small meals to try to increase her activity level and get her kind of wanting to hunt and eat and move around a little bit more. So as I said, guys, this is just a little bit of a basic overview of my snakes. I just want to kind of let you guys see these guys. I know that they get shown every now and then just when they're having a feed or something like that when I'm doing one of my routine videos, but I wanted to kind of just highlight this girl in particular because she definitely deserves it. Something else I do with this enclosure is I do periodically mist it down, and when I say that, it's more likely just watering the plants. It's not soaking the enclosure by any means. It's not spraying the snake. You know, I want her to kind of move around and drink from the water bowl and all the rest of it, so I don't spray the snake per se, but you know, I will mist the plants down probably once every couple of weeks at the very least, just to make sure that they're growing and thriving. So we'll let her go back into her enclosure now and see what she ends up doing. She'll probably go straight for her favourite spot. You can see she's quite a long snake. She's probably in the sort of like 1.2 metre range, somewhere like that. It's been a little while since she's shed as well, so coming into the warmer months she might shed shortly. She's got such a nice muscle tone to her though. So there you have it, guys. It's just a basic overlook of one of my favourite pythons here. I really love this snake, and no matter what happens, this is one of the snakes that's always going to be in my collection. She's just such a phenomenal animal. I hope you guys really enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to drop a comment down below and let me know what you think. Let me know what one of my pythons you'd like to see in the next python profiles. Make sure to drop the video a like, and if you can, subscribe to the channel as well and turn on the notification bell. It'll mean the world to me as well. If you really want to support the channel out as well, make sure to go and check out Teespring so you can get some cool Beaches Scaly Beast merch. The link will be in the description below, along with our Patreon account link. So go and check that out too. And I think next week I'll be chucking up another live video for the Patreons only. So thanks for hanging around for this one, guys. And I can't wait to see you guys all on the next video.